I did not expect the tension in BTG to suddenly shift toward Grayson and Jacob's investigation. It caught me off guard in a way that feels both deliberate and unsettling, like the story itself is quietly rearranging its priorities without warning me, and I find myself trying to keep up with every subtle movement, every hidden motive that now begins to surface. I had been so certain that the central conflict would remain locked between Leslie and the Dupree family, an endless cycle of confrontation and retaliation, a battle that seemed destined to burn without resolution. But now everything feels different, and the arrival of Grayson, someone who initially seemed insignificant, just a laboratory technician, has quietly disrupted the entire balance of power. I keep thinking about how easily the narrative redirected itself, how Leslie's war, which once felt like the core of everything, is now being interrupted by something far more intricate, the development of the free hospital, which at first glance appears to be a hopeful breakthrough, something pure, something necessary, yet the more I look at it, the more I sense that it is not as simple as it seems. Leah, operating as the messenger within Plasma, has inserted herself into this development in a way that feels calculated, almost predatory, and her insistence that Grayson infiltrate the hospital makes me uneasy, because it transforms what should have been a symbol of hope into a potential battleground. Grayson's hesitation is one of the most human moments I have seen so far, because his fear is not abstract, it is personal, it is tied directly to Derek, someone who already distrusts him, someone who has history with Ashley, and that connection alone creates a fragile tension that could collapse at any moment. I can see why Grayson wants to refuse, why he tries to step back from the mission, because stepping into that hospital is not just about completing a task. It is about stepping into a space where he is already vulnerable, already under scrutiny, and yet Leah does not allow him that choice. What unsettles me the most is the way Leah dismisses his fears so effortlessly, as if his concerns are irrelevant, as if his autonomy no longer exists. And when she reminds him that once he joined Plasma King, he lost the right to refuse, even in the face of death, it becomes painfully clear that Grayson is no longer just an individual making decisions. He is a piece on a board, controlled, expendable, and perhaps only now beginning to understand the consequences of what he once believed was a harmless side involvement. I find myself reflecting on Grayson's realization because it feels like a turning point, not just for him, but for the entire narrative. This moment where the illusion of safety is stripped away, where he begins to see the true nature of the organization he is tied to, and I wonder if this awareness will push him toward a different path, or if it will simply trap him deeper, forcing him to comply while internally breaking apart. At the same time, Derek's role in all of this continues to surprise me, because I had already begun to write him off. I thought his story was nearing its end after his breakup with Ashley and his struggle with unemployment. It felt like he was being phased out, quietly removed from the main thread. But instead, he returns in a way that feels unexpectedly meaningful. His involvement with the Free Hospital, his willingness to represent it and engage in volunteer work gives him a renewed sense of purpose, and more importantly, it places him directly in the path of Grayson. There is something almost ironic about this contrast. Derek, who is not a doctor, who does not possess the same technical expertise, is now contributing to something genuinely good, working alongside Eva, building ideas, shaping the hospital into something beneficial for the community, while Grayson and Leah, who operate within the medical field, are entangled in actions that undermine that very goodness. This inversion of expectations makes the story feel more layered, more morally complex, because it challenges the assumption that professional identity determines ethical behavior. I keep thinking about the dynamic between Derek and Eva, how their collaboration seems natural, almost effortless, as if they are aligned in both intention and vision, and that alignment creates a sense of stability that contrasts sharply with the instability surrounding Grayson. It makes me wonder if Derek will become not just an observer, but an active force in exposing what is happening, especially since his distrust of Grayson has not faded. Jacob's efforts stand out to me as something almost heroic, though not in an exaggerated way, but in a grounded, persistent manner. He is trying to hold everything together, trying to uncover the truth, trying to prevent further damage, and there is a quiet determination in his actions that makes me believe He will not stop, even when the situation becomes more dangerous. His investigation feels like a thread that could unravel everything, and that possibility adds a constant layer of tension to every scene involving Grayson. The mission assigned to Grayson feels like a ticking clock. Every step he takes toward the hospital increases the risk of exposure, and I cannot help but wonder if this pressure will push him into making a critical mistake, or if it will force him to make a choice, one that could alter the trajectory of the entire story. There is a part of me that believes he might turn to Jacob, that he might reveal Leah's involvement as a way to escape the trap he is in, but at the same time, I am not entirely convinced he has the courage to do that yet. Ashley's presence complicates everything further because she exists at the intersection of these relationships, connected to both Derek and Grayson, and potentially to Jacob as well. And I keep imagining that moment, the one where she could discover the truth, where she could turn around and see Jacob standing behind her and Grayson during a transaction, and everything would collapse in an instant. That moment feels inevitable, like it is being carefully set up, and yet I also sense that it might be delayed, stretched out to maximize the tension. I find myself imagining Grayson's reaction in that scenario, how quickly he would need to act, how he might instinctively pull Ashley away before she has the chance to process what she is seeing, and that action alone could raise even more suspicion, creating a chain reaction that becomes impossible to contain. It is these small, precise moments that I feel the story is building toward, moments where a single decision changes everything. As Grayson continues his mission, the stakes only seem to increase, because his presence in the hospital is not passive. It requires interaction. It requires engagement, and that means more encounters with Derek, more opportunities for scrutiny, more chances for something to go wrong. Derek's consistent suspicion creates an undercurrent of tension in every potential interaction, and I cannot shake the feeling that he will eventually notice something, a detail that does not align, a behavior that feels off. There is a sense of inevitability in the idea that the truth will come out, that no matter how carefully Grayson tries to navigate the situation, something will slip, something will expose the reality of his intentions, and when that happens, the consequences will not be contained to just him. They will ripple outward, affecting everyone connected to him, including Ashley, Derek, and possibly even Jacob. I keep returning to the idea that Grayson is standing at a crossroads, though he may not fully realize it yet, because every action he takes now carries weight. Every decision pushes him closer to either redemption or destruction, and the presence of characters like Jacob and Derek only amplifies that tension because they represent opposing forces, one seeking truth, the other driven by instinct and distrust. The more I think about it, the more I feel that the free hospital itself is becoming a central symbol, not just a setting, but a representation of conflicting intentions. On one side, it embodies hope, compassion, and community effort, driven by people like Derek and Eva. And on the other side, it becomes a target, a tool for manipulation and infiltration by individuals like Leah and Grayson. This duality makes every scene within the hospital feel charged, as if something significant could happen at any moment. Leah's influence continues to loom over everything, even when she is not physically present, because her control over Grayson extends into every action he takes, every hesitation he feels, and I cannot help but wonder if she has anticipated the risks, if she is already prepared for the possibility of exposure, or if she is simply willing to sacrifice Grayson if things go wrong. There is a coldness in her approach that contrasts sharply with the warmth associated with the hospital project, and that contrast reinforces the sense that these two worlds are on a collision course, one driven by manipulation and control, the other by genuine effort and care. When these worlds finally collide, I expect the impact to be significant, perhaps even devastating. As I continue to follow these developments, I find myself constantly questioning what will happen next. Whether Grayson will break under the pressure, whether Derek will uncover the truth, whether Jacob will connect all the pieces, and whether Ashley will find herself caught in the middle of it all. Each possibility feels plausible, each outcome feels within reach, and that uncertainty is what keeps me invested. I can see the tension building steadily, not through sudden dramatic events, but through quiet moments, subtle interactions, and the gradual accumulation of risk. And it makes me feel like the story is preparing for something larger, something that will bring all of these threads together in a way that cannot be undone.